قل يا أيها الكافرون لا أعبد ما تعبدون صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم. Can people hear it? We have a short amount of time, and the mawzu that I was given is troubled times. And if my voice breaks up, then please forgive me. I've been in bed for 3 days, and I just came out of bed after Zohar this morning as well. So, as you know, the weather's not been very good. So, I did a very short khutbah at the start, and I think that's pertinent to what we're going to discuss today. Sometimes when a speaker is given 15, 20 minutes, they then spend 5-10 minutes on a khutbah in Arabic, which actually defies the purpose of them speaking, because the purpose of speaking is to relay a message to you, for you to understand. And although there is barakat in the khutbah, we've had tilawat at the start, we've had Naaz Sharif at the start, so the whole purpose of us speaking is to portray our message. But you see, that's how we talk about troubled times, and I'll discuss that topic in a minute. But what we need to understand is that there's something called wajibul waqt, the need of the time. So you need to understand what's the need of the time. And that's one of the ways you get through troubled times, is to understanding what is the need of the time. Depending on the time and depending on the place you're in, there's something which is better for you to do than something else. For example, normally if somebody says, I want to do the best ibadat, you would say to them, read nafil namaz. That's the best ibadat that you can do. But in the month of Ramadan, the best ibadat you can do is actually the fast of Ramadan, keeping the roza of Ramadan. And if somebody wants to pray nafil, but if that nafil will make him ill or weak, then he won't be able to keep the fast, then he shouldn't keep doing nafil namaz. Similarly, if you're in Makkah Sharif, normally we say that nafil namaz is the best, but when you're in Makkah Sharif, the tawaf is the best ibadah that you can do, which you can't do that anywhere else. So depending on the time and depending on the place, the need of the time changes. And that's one thing we need to understand and ask ourselves, what is the need of the time that we're in? And us respond according to that. What's appropriate in one time might not be appropriate in another time. And that's where you need knowledge, and that's where you need hikmat as well. It's not just good enough having knowledge, but it's important to have wisdom to apply that knowledge in the given situation. When I was given the topic and told that this was about troubled times, I didn't like the topic, because we have an issue with when we say we're in troubled times. Automatically it makes us pessimistic, that we think everything's going wrong, because we're saying we're in troubled times, which means that everything is wrong, and then automatically we become pessimistic. Whereas a Muslim should always be optimistic. We should always look on the bright side, and as a Muslim we should be a ray of hope and a ray of light within the society we're in, because we believe in Allah Ta'ala, and we believe that everything comes from Allah Ta'ala. So why are we upset? And the Sufiya have said that a mu'min has a balance between having hope on Allah Ta'ala's mercy and also fearing Allah Ta'ala. So we have both. We have hope for Allah Ta'ala's mercy, but we also fear His punishment and His anger and His wrath against us. But the Sufiya have said that always your hope should be slightly above your fear. You should always have hope that Allah Ta'ala will make things better for us. So as a Muslim, we're always optimistic, whatever we do. And the other point is about saying troubled times all the time. We then sometimes get into a victim mentality. We blame other people. We say times are troubled, times are bad. And in that, implicitly what we're saying is that there's nothing wrong with us. So we're always blaming somebody else. We're making our problem external rather internal. And Prophet ﷺ mentioned the Hadith Qudsi that the human being always blames time and says these are bad times and swears at time. And Allah Ta'ala says, I am time. As in, don't blame time, it's actually something wrong with us. So we're always blaming the times around us, and we're saying things are bad. And actually, if you think about it, we're saying, Donald Trump is here, Brexit is here, this is happening to the Muslim world. But if you look through Islamic history, this is nothing compared to what Muslims before us have faced. This is nothing what we're facing today. If we look at the early start of Islam, when the Prophet ﷺ started preaching Islam, Islam was under great threat. The whole wujood of Islam, the whole being of Islam was under threat. Look at the Battle of Badr. The Prophet ﷺ pleaded to Allah Ta'ala that if we lose this battle, then Islam will be finished. So Islam was under that great threat. And was there a worse time for the Muslims than the day the Prophet ﷺ passed away? The Sahaba Ikram said that the day the Prophet ﷺ passed away, there was no darker day in the city of Medina in that day. And could there have been a greater tragedy than that? And the Prophet ﷺ said in one hadith that whenever you have some trouble, whenever you have pain, For example, if one of your children died, and you have pain over that and remorse, but think about the separation that you have from the Prophet ﷺ. That the greatest pain a Muslim had, the greatest gham the Muslim had, was the day the Prophet ﷺ passed away from our eyes. Although we believe he is alive, tu zinda hai wallah, tu zinda hai wallah, but meri chashme alam se chup jane wale, the Prophet ﷺ is away from our physical eyes. So can there be any greater than that? Could there have been a greater tragedy than the tragedy of Karbala, when the Prophet ﷺ's grandson and his grandchildren were slaughtered? Could there have been a greater tragedy than that? And today we talk about, there was a bomb at Seven Sharif and there was a bomb at the other Darbar before. But do you remember when Yazid's army in the year 62 Hijri, and some say 63, actually attacked the Kaaba Sharif? The Gilaf of the Kaaba Sharif was attacked. The animal that came when Sayyidina Ismail Islam was slaughtered, when Ibrahim Islam was about to sacrifice Ismail Islam, and then the ram came in place, and the hoofs of that ram, they used to hang from the Kaaba Sharif, and they were burnt on that day when Yazid's army attacked it. And is there a worse day when the city of Medina Sharif was attacked by Yazid's army? I know there's young children present, but Ibn Kathir mentions that the day that Medina Sharif was attacked by Yazid's army, on that day, 1,000 women, daughters of the Sahaba Ikram, women, became pregnant through rape on that day. So could you have an even worse time than that? So by us saying that these are troubled times, we're kind of blaming everybody else and we're thinking we're kind of in a bad situation, whereas we're not in a bad situation. We can challenge these, so there's no need for us to be pessimistic about this. And also, so what if we're in a bad situation? It shouldn't make a difference to us if we're in troubled times or in good times, because any trouble that comes from Allah Ta'ala is a test for us. Any good time that comes from Allah Ta'ala, that's also a test for us. Sometimes we think that if everything's good, then everything's good. But sometimes good can turn bad for you. Allah Ta'ala mentions that in the Quran in many places. That what you think is good for you is actually bad for you. For example, we want to be rich and we want to be wealthy. But do you know how much problems come with wealth? The Prophet ﷺ used to always do dua that on the day of judgment, raise me and make my account with the poor people. And the Prophet ﷺ used to say that the poor people will enter paradise 50,000 years before the rich will. So what you think is going to be success in this world, and with greater success comes greater responsibilities. If you've got more money, if you've got more strength, if you've got more ability, then you are tested more and you'll be held to account more and there will be more issues for you. So it doesn't matter whether you're in good times or in bad times, you are still being tested by Allah Ta'ala. And also, if you're not being successful, so what? Because Islam is not about the end result. It's about the means and your niyat of getting there. For example, if we're in a battle and we lose and we're martyred, we're a martyr. What more do you want from being a martyr? The Prophet ﷺ said if you knew, if it was possible that you knew the benefits and the virtue of being a martyr, you would ask to be martyred again and again and again and again and again if you knew the virtue. And if you're successful, you're victorious, you're a ghazi. So you're still successful. So whether you lose or you win, you're still successful. So don't measure our troubled times or the situation we're in with the end result all the way. So don't measure them with this world. Also, we're not for this world. We're not for this world. If we lose in this world, so what? We were for the akhirah. That's what the Muslim is. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala used to say that be in this world with your body, but your heart should be in the akhirat. You should always be thinking about the akhirat. It doesn't matter whether you win or lose in the dunya. It was never about the dunya for us. We never came here to earn dunya. We came here to earn akhirah. So whether we're apparently being successful or not in this dunya makes no difference. So don't look at the apparent stuff. For example, if somebody gives £1 in sadaqah and another person gives £1,000 in sadaqah, who's better? We don't know. We can't say. Because Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran that Allah Ta'ala will reward you. مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. We've up to 700 times, and then Allah Ta'ala says, وَاللَّهُ يُضَاعِفُ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ. Allah Ta'ala will give it more. So it's not about the apparent things you're giving. It's on your niyat, it's on your sincerity that you will get it. But similarly, the means in Islam don't justify the ends. So just because something apparently looks like we're losing, we might actually be gaining. In our troubles, and being patient in our troubles, we're actually gaining a lot more than we would be if we were in good times. So we shouldn't always be pessimistic. So because I have short time, whatever troubles we're in, the way to handle the troubles is to be steadfast upon our iman. And to be steadfast upon our iman, we need to be strong. And some people during troubled times will say to you, all Muslims need to be united. We need to unify. And we need to come together. And we should be united with the Muslims. But then there's other groups within Muslims who call themselves Muslims, but we have serious issues with them. So should we unite with them or not? People say, if we get disunited, we'll be weak. But if we unite amongst each other, if all Muslims come together under one banner and come together, we'll be united and we'll be stronger. And this is a question that a lot of our brothers face and a lot of sisters face. Why are we so separated, and why do we not talk to each other? Why do we not like each other? Why are we against each other? When Islam is under attack, we need to come together. So we should come together because that will bring unity. This, again, could be good, but it could be a problem if we don't know what we're doing. We need to understand that we are happy to unite with people if we are uniting on the truth. But we are not going to unite if we have to compromise our fundamental principles. So therefore, we need to understand what are our fundamental principles that we cannot compromise upon for unity. And what are those principles and what are those issues that we can overlook and unite. That's an important point that we need to understand. And you will only understand that if you have knowledge. If you understand what our important points are, what our important points of Aqeedah are, what are our fundamentals. What defines us as Muslims, as Ahl Sunnah wal Jamaat, as Ash'ari Maturidi, what are we? What defines us? And that's what we need to understand. And that's something you need to take away. When you come to gatherings like this, you must come here with the view of taking something away. If you leave this gathering without an action plan, without a point in your head about some further study or some further research you're going to do, then you've actually wasted your time. Whenever you go into a seminar, whenever you go into a lecture, you must come out of there with an action point. If you haven't come out with the action point, either you weren't listening or the speaker wasn't good. So you must come out of there with an action point. So the key message from me is that you must remember that we want unity, but we'll only have unity if we're not compromising the truth. If we compromise the truth, then what are we uniting for? We're uniting for Islam. But then if on our compromise we give up Islam, then what was the point of our unity? And this is something that happened in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, which is why I recited the verse, قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ لَا أَعْبُدُ مَا تَعْبُدُونَ. When the Prophet ﷺ started preaching Islam, people in Makkah Sharif didn't take him seriously because there was nobody accepting Islam, except a few people. And most of the people at the early days who accepted Islam were mainly the poor people, give or take Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu or Sayyidina Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. So they never took him seriously. But then slowly, as more and more people became Muslims, people thought we need to take some action. So the mushrikeen went to the Prophet ﷺ and said to the Prophet ﷺ that, stop this preaching, what do you really want? Because a lot of the time when people bring a new religion or a new way, they're actually after something. And they said to the Prophet ﷺ that if you want money, we'll give you as much money as you want. Or if you want power, we'll make you our leader. Or if you want any woman, we will give you her hand in marriage. So therefore the Prophet ﷺ did, because normally what they'd seen is that when somebody's after something or starting something, they're after either money, fame, or they're after power, or they're after some woman, or after their carnal desires. So they offered this to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ said that, you offering me this, you haven't understood who I am by offering me these things. I don't need any of these things. So the Prophet ﷺ turned away. And this is also a good test for us. If you have a speaker or somebody who's coming up to you and saying things, try and understand what's their purpose. Are they coming to you for unity because they want Islam to be strong, or are they coming because they have these other worldly desires behind them? And you need to test that. When the Prophet ﷺ turned down their offers of these bribes, the mushrikeen then came up with another plan. And they said, we need to be united. Because if Makkah isn't united, then our enemies will attack us. And if we're not united, if your tribe and your clan is not united, then you will be under great problems. So let's have unity amongst us. And they offered a solution to the Prophet ﷺ. They said to the Prophet ﷺ that you stick to your religion and we will stick to ours. What we will do is that one year we will worship your Lord. And then the next year we will all worship our gods. So the mushrikeen said to the Prophet ﷺ, 1 year you worship our lords, and then the second year we will do this and we'll do this alternatively, and then we won't have a problem then because we'll be united upon one religion. Nara Takbir, Nara Risalat, Nara Haidari, Nara Gausiya. So the Prophet so they made this offer to the Prophet ﷺ. Now, if you're a political person or you're a worldly person, what did you think of this offer? That we'll have unity here. They'll worship everybody. Everybody will worship Allah Ta'ala for 1 year, and then 1 year we'll worship their lords, and we'll be together. But what would that, why? But would that have been acceptable to the Muslims? In one narration, and when some of the tafsir, it says that the Prophet ﷺ remained quiet. And in others, he told them, that, how can I do this? If we were to accept your condition, and 1 year we worship your gods, then what's the point us worshiping our God? Because our God is the God of Tawheed. You're diluting our religion. And in other tafsir, it mentions that the Prophet ﷺ remained quiet and waited for Allah Ta'ala to come and give this surah. And then this surah was revealed. And Imam Razi mentioned that with the nur of prophethood, the Prophet ﷺ knew that Allah Ta'ala was going to reveal a surah in response to the kafir. And Allah Ta'ala said to the Prophet ﷺ, say, Qul, Ya ayyuhal kafirun, O kafirs. And this is a very strong statement. Because Allah Ta'ala is saying, they've come with peace to you. They've come with an offer of compromise. And Allah Ta'ala is telling the Prophet ﷺ to go to them with an offer. Go to them and respond to them by calling them kafirs. So that even before you give your answer, by calling them kafirs, you've told them that they are rejected and that you cannot have anything with them. Because even though we call them kafirs, they never call themselves kafir. So we weren't prepared to accept this. So the Prophet said, La abudu ma tabu, we will not worship what you worship. So the compromise that they offered seemed to a worldly person reasonable, that we will get together and unite on something. You know, you compromise something and we will compromise something. But what happened? The Prophet ﷺ rejected this, because if we'd have accepted their offer, the Muslims that accepted the offers of the kuffar of worshipping another Lord, then that would have destroyed our tawheed. It would have destroyed our fundamental belief. So that's what we need to understand. If we are going to compromise with other people, what are our fundamental beliefs? What are the lines of distinction that we need to draw? And when can we unite and when can we not unite? Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.